You're listening to Season 14 of the Virtual Tailgate, a media bullcrap production covering college football in the Atlantic Coast Conference. I'm Andrew, and joining me tonight, we've got David.
The SS Morro Castle caught fire off the New Jersey coast, killing more than 100 people. Joseph Lyons was re-elected Prime Minister of Australia. The Soviet Union officially joined the League of Nations, and Bruno Richard Hauptmann was arrested in connection with the kidnapping of Charles Lindbergh Jr. All of that happened this week in 1934.
Also joining me, we've got Jeff.
All right, from our loyal sponsor, this week's episode of the Virtual Tailgate's brought to you by Pater's Habanero Burritos and Tacos. Pater's Habanero Burritos and Tacos are the perfect treat for a quick stop on that long 6-hour road trip. Burritos and tacos are hot, spicy, ready to be served to you. Pater's Habanero Burritos and Tacos offer a convenient, quick stop that tastes so good it will make its way into your stomach fast and out the tailpipe even faster. So on your next 12-hour road trip through rural America, possibly stopping at SMU, with no restrooms or pull-offs in sight, remember, Pedro's Habaneros Burritos and Tacos, because you haven't shat yourself today.
You get your butt beat.
And finally, joining us tonight, we've got Jared.
The following parody service announcement is from the Virtual Tailgate. So, you're about to wrap up the first week of the fantasy football season. You're minutes away from victory one of many. And at the last minute, your opponent reaches out for mercy and requests a draw, a tie. How should you handle this? Simple. Tell that walking piece of trash to go suck an egg. It's not your problem his team underachieved. And also remind him that this is America, where ties are for communists and hippies. By doing this, you stand up for yourself and for your country. And there is nothing more patriotic than that. You'll be glad you did. The more you know.
First of all, how dare you?
Wait. Was that directed at somebody?
That's the most ludicrous crap I've ever heard. Next question.
I mean, I guess be sure to join the Virtual Tailgate.
Nobody gets the joke because they're not going to get to hear the first part. Come on.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
No, I stopped the recording. Talk to us about players of the week, dude.
All right, players of the week, guys. All right, every week we play football. We actually played football last week. Some teams actually won games last week. Jared, lead us off with your player of the week.
Well, a team that came back from being down pretty deep against Cincinnati and coming back for a 1-point victory, Pittsburgh, and their running back Desmond Reed had 19 carries and 148 yards, 6 catches. Also has 6 catches, 106 yards, and a touchdown as well. Believe he's one of the first Pittsburgh running backs to do that ever, which is the 100 milestone, which quite impressive. You think about the history of Pittsburgh running backs: Tony Dorsett, James Conner, and Desmond Reed's the first to do it. Which, hey, for the transfer from Western Carolina, that's pretty darn impressive. Well done.
Yeah, that is really impressive, Jared. The only concern I have for Desmond is that it took him a whole game to put that together. David, I think your player of the week, he didn't even need a whole game, did he?
No, indeed. So Cade Klubnik, Clemson quarterback, bounced back from that opening weekend loss at the hands of the Georgia Bulldogs by putting together the best first quarter in football history. When the gun sounded at the end of quarter one in their victory over Appalachian State, Klubnik had notched 11 for 11 passing through the air, 233 yards, 3 touchdowns, another touchdown on the ground for a 35-0 lead over Appalachian State. Cade would go ahead and play one more quarter. He packed it up at the half. Final stats for Cade Klubnik in 2 quarters of football: 24 for 26, 378 yards, 5 touchdowns through the air, 2 more on the ground. It was an all-timer of a game, worthy of a Virtual Tailgate game ball for Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik.
All right, and for my game ball, I'm going to go to be a little bit of a homer pick, but it's legitimate. I've got wide receiver Malachi Fields, wide receiver for the Virginia Cavaliers. did not find pay dirt, but put up some stats to the tune of 11 receptions, 148 yards, receiving, including a 45-yard long bomb grab during the game in a really an exciting game in which UVA came from behind in the fourth quarter to squeak out a 31-30 victory over the Wake Forest Demon Deacons down in Winston-Salem on Saturday night. Some have said, maybe overstating it. It's early in the season, could be a direction-changing victory for the Cavaliers. That's yet to be seen, but nevertheless, some big milestones here. It snapped a 5-game losing streak in the series against the Demon Deacs. It snapped a 3-year opening conference loss streak that the Cavaliers had been under, and really with the crazy unbalanced schedule that the ACC has had since it's continued to expand. It was the first win in Winston-Salem since 2002. That's been a bit of time. Obviously, in the unbalanced scheduling, you don't go play home and homes all that often in the ACC anymore. But first win in over 2 decades for the Cavaliers down in Winston-Salem. But nevertheless, a good come from behind victory. Malachi Fields had a big part in that with his almost 150 yards through the air in that victory. Now, Andrew, I think you have the other side of the ball maybe a new entrant to the ACC also.
Yeah, it's always good to welcome in some of our new teams, find a good game ball for folks. Really wanted to, laud Cal for showing up and immediately beating an SEC team in Auburn, really making the ACC look a lot better than we really are, probably for most of this season. But I started looking through the stats and, on the offensive side, people were good, but not great. It wasn't like there weren't really like any truly amazing performances. It turns out that's because Cal got to play with a short field a lot. There were 4 interceptions on the game for the Auburn quarterback, and Auburn did not pull that quarterback after he had 3. So sorry, buddy. But the standout for Cal was Noel Williams. He had 2 interceptions on the day, and he's the only one of the cornerbacks that got interceptions who had any return yards. He had 14 return yards, but 2 interceptions in a single game is always a big deal. I definitely remember a Wolfpack corner a few years ago that had 2 interceptions in multiple games. He must not have done much because I don't remember his name. He may not be in the NFL anymore. Sorry, buddy. But Williams also had 2 solo tackles. He probably had a bunch of breakups too, but that stat doesn't seem to be tracked on ESPN. Great standout game, and truly welcome to the ACC, Cal. You can stick around as long as you beat at least 1 to 2 SEC teams every year.
Mm-hmm. Well put. And speaking of breakups, my wife left me. And now to the power rankings this week.
Tyler.
We all knew it was coming, so I mean.
Yeah. Yes, number 5, we have Syracuse jumping up 4 spots to in the top 5 of the power rankings at number 5. 2-0, 1-0 in the conference after their 31-28 win against Georgia Tech. Although Syracuse really did try at the end to give the win back to Georgia Tech, but the Orange held on to it, and they have earned this I guess a week off here. And so David found a new clip that we'll be sharing with you, the listeners, that we hope you enjoy right now.
Some Gatorade, man. Enjoy your day.
That's right. You get to enjoy your whole week with that orange Gatorade. Number 4, North Carolina, jumping up 3 spots up to number 4 after their 38-20 win over Charlotte. They're 2-0. They still have not played in conference yet. Number 3 is the Boston College Eagles, jumping up another 2 spots from 5 to 3, 2-0, 1-0 in the conference after their 56-0 win over Duquesne, which leaves quite a few teams to say this.
Come on, you damn bird! Come and get me!
Before I get to the top 2, I see there's a message here for beneficiary of unprecedented suckage. I can't talk.
Unprecedented.
Thank you. It's just words.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, that's a heck of a move for North Carolina off that big win over Charlotte. I mean,
That's true. That's why I thought I'd jump back to it. And then you guys make fun of me for not being able to say a word. And number 2, I'm the fool for that. Number 2,
what Notre Dame? What is it?
Miami. Number 2 is Miami. Jumping up.
Duquesne, is that what you called it last week?
Duquesne. I mean, queso. Number 2.
Jared is hooked on phonics. Let's just tell him.
Sure, you've never made any bad decisions.
Tyler. Number 2, Miami jumping up a spot after they're dominating 56-9 win over Florida A&M. The Canes are still waiting for their first ACC game. And at number 1, we have Louisville. Still been the number 1 team in our power rankings. They're still number 1 now. They've beat Jacksonville State 49-14. At 2-0 at this point. Now, our bottom 3, we have number 15, the newcomer, Wake Forest, dropping a spot to hit that 15th spot with their first conference loss against UVA in a tough nail-biter, 31-30. And number 16, jumping up a spot from dead last to 16, is the Stanford Cardinal. At 1-1, they had a 41-7 win over Cal Poly. Hey, it's not the basement, because somehow, Florida State, you get that spot for taking a week off. You also get the FU award, which is great. It's where you drop a spot and you did nothing wrong because you were on a bye. It's the best.
They lost a bunch of recruits. I mean,
Rock says they kept you at the bottom of the barrel because you absolutely suck.
You're also 0-2 in the conference. That's the other thing that hurts Florida State right now. They have an uphill battle to be in the ACC title game. Honorable mention, though, for our power rankings, they had a significant drop, but not in the bottom 3. SMU, you guys had a pretty ugly loss to BYU there. That was not good. So you have earned this sound clip for this week.
He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise.
Someone defecating.
It was smelly in Dallas.
So can I just say that if I'm Mike Norvell right now, there's a lot of things you could have done the last 2 weeks. You could have talked about game plans. You could have talked about changing up who's in and who's out, what packages you're running during certain times of the game. But if I want to motivate my team, I would plaster and blow up the virtual tailgate power rankings, and I would have that on every locker front and center for them to look at every time they walk in for the last 2 weeks. Am I wrong, guys?
Jeff, those boys would be upset if they could read that.
Well, if you think the power rankings are upsetting, why don't we go ahead and talk about their upcoming game? Because there may be a little bit more locker room material here for Coach Norvell. Florida State Seminoles are playing host to the Memphis Tigers. Memphis, one of those group of 5 teams that's really in the running, vying for a possible playoff bid this season. They come to town as 5.5-point underdogs against the Seminoles. But I think the 3 of you feel really, really good about Memphis. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
David, have you not watched Florida State? Memphis is like the AAC top team right now. I think it's what the consensus is, and Florida State's playing like a Power 5 team right now. I don't see the advantage Florida State's going to have in this game. Memphis is not the furthest drive for them to go down to Tallahassee. I think they'll have a decent fan support. Does Florida State even going to have their stadium full? Their stadium's not even complete from renovation. So it's just a lot of things are not working in the Seminoles' favor right now.
Yeah, I don't think the stadium renovation is going to be their problem.
Yeah, well, bad start against Georgia Tech, flat against Boston College. I mean, flat. They did not want to be there on national television. So now everyone knows this. If you're Memphis, you go in there, run the ball down their throat, and punch them in the mouth, and you're going to win by double digits probably. I don't think they will, but that's a simple game plan. I mean, seriously, Florida State's shown they are not a good team. They are not a good team right now. And I just don't think that changes against a good Memphis team this week.
I mean, to go even a little further on that, Jared, like they're a one-dimensional team. I do believe their total rushing yardage for everyone on their team barely eclipses the Memphis running back who's coming to town for this game. And that one dimension has not looked all that great either in DJ Uyunglele. Yes, I did learn how to pronounce that when he thought he was going to be good.
I'm so surprised he's still the starter at this point.
I don't even know that they have another quarterback that's worth talking about. So that's another thing. But I'm not.
Man, the shots being fired tonight, guys.
Yeah. But I'm not as high as you guys on it. I'm not taking Memphis on the outright money line. I'm just going to take them to cover the spread. That means, yeah, they could win. But I think even if Florida State does right this ship, does start getting things back on track, I don't see this being a multi touchdown game. I feel like this is going to be separated by a field goal or less.
FYI, tickets as low as $29 available to watch the game at Tallahassee.
That's a steal.
I mean, if that tells you about the enthusiasm of the Seminole fan base right now, this is a game where, you asked David, are we confident about Memphis? I don't know. I'll tell you what I'm not confident in though right now is, and Jared kind of knows, I'm not confident in Florida State. This is a Florida State team that looked absolutely horrible in basically both their first games, totally out of sorts, and a Memphis team that, call it for what it's worth, they've at least showed up to play their first two games, putting up points. I'm not sure how much this Florida State offense can really put up. I'm just concerned that this Memphis game almost feels like a replay of if not the BC game, the Georgia Tech game. I mean, it's a game that it feels like you wouldn't expect Florida State to drop the game, and a team that comes in with a little bit of momentum, a little bit of playing with house money, and comes in and pulls off the upset. In this case, this isn't one that I would probably place money on one way or the other. This week in Florida State, I realized had the bye week to prep things, but DJU has been an F so far in Florida State ever since he came in as a transfer for his second stint at the ACC, and until proven otherwise, I can't trust this Seminole team right now.
Well, you guys have almost talked me out of it, but I think I'm going to stick with my pick, which is I think this is
good call.
Well, yeah, actually, the more you talk, the more confident I feel. I think this is the week that Florida State rights the ship. It almost has to be. I mean, this is, if you can ever say that there's a must-win game in September, this is a must-win game for Mike Norvell and company. With the extra week to prepare, coming back home, playing host to a group of five school, it really is a must win, but I think they do enough to get the win. Florida State has a tremendous amount of talent on both sides of the ball. I know that it has not clicked, especially on the offensive side so far this year, but I think this is where you see them start to bring it together, do enough to get the victory. This is where talent wins out. Florida State wins and they cover. I think this is a 8 to 10, 12 point victory for the Seminoles.
Just a friendly reminder, according to the rumor mill and about the realignment world, this could be a possible audition for the Memphis Tigers to be a ACC member down the road. So, probably replacing this team.
I, for one, welcome our new Tiger overlords.
That's right. They got great chicken. All right.
Up next, we've got the backyard brawl. Mountaineers of West Virginia traveling up to I don't know, it's not called Heinz Field anymore, is it? What do they call stadium now?
Ketchup and Mustard Field.
Who the heck knows anymore? But
Spaghetti Field.
It's a Steelers Stadium.
I mean, I would just still call it Three Rivers if it was me. But
there it is. So the Pitt Panthers playing host to West Virginia. This is an old rivalry that goes back a long ways. Good to see it being renewed here. This is the place where I think every once in a while on this show, we're a little bit, we kind of show our ACC homerism. This might be the spot because West Virginia rolls in here as 4.5 point favorites. And yet all of us are taking the Panthers of Pittsburgh. What's going on?
Well, this game that's taking place at Acrisure Stadium. Ooh.
We were so close.
Has has Pitt predicted to win 52.8% of the time, according to the vaunted ESPN Analytics matchup predictor, which I'm sure is powered by somebody's AI these days. So
I'm surprised ESPN allowed it.
So how could it be wrong? And actually the line started out at 4.5. The line has now moved to 3 for West Virginia over the past couple of days. So we're still working on the opening line for our spread there. But the fact that it's basically moved to home field advantage and nothing else as the line really does show how evenly matched these two teams are going to be.
You're saying the Sharps are with us?
Yes.
All right.
Well, it is being played at Pitt, and it's West Virginia -3, right?
Don't doubt what I said. I didn't get it wrong. Obviously, I didn't do it exactly the opposite of what it should have been. I mean, come on.
Okay. Anyway.
Nonetheless, the line is moving towards Pitt.
Okay, let's just leave it at that and call it a day. Anyway,
what Andrew meant to say is that it's moved to the home field disadvantage. Like that's what it's moved towards.
So, as I'm wrapping my head around that statement, West Virginia has only been an Albany team, albeit by 30 plus points, but they lost to Penn State 34-12 in that weird thunderstorm delayed game at Penn State against Penn State. And you could say that it's just some variables that doesn't work in the Mountaineers' favor, but they haven't exactly looked great this year. Obviously they're very beatable. Pitt, on the other hand, to our surprise, I must add, took care of Kent State, and they were very just Narduzzi-esque football. I mean, like the old school Narduzzi teams, like they fought back hard against and they won. I think that carries over. I don't think Pitt's going to take anything from West Virginia. If there's a guy that will get you amped up probably for a rivalry game in this conference, it's probably Pat Narduzzi. I can see them really holding on against West Virginia if West Virginia comes with their A game, and Pitt just finds a way to get the job done and wins.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of issues with that. First is Jared's pronunciation of Albany, when referring to West Virginia's games. This is a West Virginia team that I always feel like Pitt is due for playing a closer than they should performance at some point in time, and they've started off the season 2-0 with a good, strong 2-0, but they did have to come back last week against Cincinnati. Cincinnati overall isn't expected to be a powerhouse team. And Kent State, who knows what to make of that one. But overall, they've given up a lot of points to two teams that probably have offenses that aren't quite as good as what West Virginia is bringing. And at the same time, Pitt's offense has shown a spark this year. We're used to thinking of Pitt as kind of winning with its defense, and the offense hopefully does enough to get done. I mean, this freshman that they've got on their team this year, Eli Holstein, at least through 2 games has been the real deal. And Jared, you were talking just earlier today, earlier in the show about Desmond Reed, the transfer, and what he's done. So the offense is really clicking right now. I think this game gets into a shootout. Is my personal opinion. I think it becomes a high scoring affair. I can't quite go the money line on Pitt, just because of the body of work and feeling like Pitt has a tendency to lay an egg from time to time, play games closer that they shouldn't get bit. I'm going with the spread. I think they can close this spread, especially since we're playing the -4.5, which is what it was when we were doing the show. I certainly think this is going to be a close game. I can't quite go to the money line, so I'm gonna at least hedge that 4.5 points in my pick for this game.
If I'm stunned that you would hedge your bet.
Was that a shot? Was that a shot from? Why don't you tell us about your enviable position from your fantasy league, David, and just let us know how that turned out for you.
Jeez, man.
Talk that talk, King.
You know what, Andrew? I've been thinking one of the problems on this show is the nepotism. When you start getting family members on the show together, it's really not professional.
Yeah.
Anyway, I agree with you guys. Pitt's gonna win. I've got Pitt on the money line. I'm not afraid. I don't live in fear. So probably Pitt's gonna lose a close game is my guess.
I could go with
All right.
that.
Anything else to say about West Virginia Pitt before we move on?
Nope.
I could go with the close loss.
I know that's what you predicted. Yeah. Oh. All right. Let's head south a little bit. We're gonna go to Scott Stadium in Charlottesville. This is where the Virginia Cavaliers, coming off that surprising come from behind win over Wake Forest, play host to the Maryland Terrapins. Maryland off to a good start this year in the Big Ten Conference. These are old ACC rivals, kind of coming back together here. It looks to me like we're a little divided on this thing. Andrew, give Wahoo fans a little bit of hope.
I mean, they pulled off the close victory against Wake Forest last week. This is a game at home. The chance to see Maryland again after a while, something you can get the team hyped up about, remind them of the old days of the rivalry, remind them of why they should hate the fridge. And yeah, hold on, man. Like, we're either going to lose by a point, which we won by a point last week, or we're going to win. So I'll take them on the spread.
All right. Jared, Jeff, tell us why that's not going to happen.
Maryland's a better coached team, top to bottom, honestly. They have better talent, probably top to bottom. And honestly, they're probably going to have more fans at Scott Stadium, top to bottom. I'm telling you right now, what I keep kind of hearing is that these Maryland fans will travel pretty well for this game, especially for a fan base that doesn't.
Well, yeah.
I mean, especially for a
closer
fan base
than any of their conference games.
Exactly. Yeah, this is they are pretty amped for this game. I don't know how you can tell your players, or much less a coach, how this game means a lot. They don't and won't get it because they have no history for it. So I think Maryland's got so much more incentive to come down here and make a statement than I think UVA does. I think UVA may be a little hungover, as they would say in the sporting world, from their tight win against Wake Forest.
Or they might literally be hungover. You never know.
Yeah, well,
it is college after all.
That's right. Yeah, you may have a few beers, have a few cocktails or martinis. I don't know what the kids drink these days, or butt chugs. But anyway,
Gosh.
All right.
Don't
You're part of the problem.
Analysis. Does it matter?
I'm gonna need somebody to fact check Jared on butt chugs. Who's gonna search? Who's gonna put that in Google on their work computer?
We gotta steer out of this thing some kind of way. Does it matter to anybody that Maryland just dropped a close game at home to Michigan State a week ago?
No.
No, I'm still looking at butt chugs.
All right.
Just gonna mute Jared until he gets himself together. David, go ahead with your rational.
All right. Well, RIP, Jared. I agree with you guys. I think Maryland is the stronger team in this one. I think they're going to come in pretty motivated. Their fans will travel. This is a huge opportunity for Virginia, though. A chance to go to start a season 3-0 for the first time in ages. A chance to really start staring down the possibility of bowl eligibility this season for the first time in several years. But I think the Terrapins are a little bit too much. This looks like a game that UVA reverts back to the mean, and the mean is that they're not quite as good as the Terrapins of Maryland. One more game that we want to talk about. The truth is, you can kind of tell it. This is not the most exciting week of ACC matchups. Hopefully, that means we're going to get some surprising action in the league this week. But the only matchup, I believe, of two ranked opponents this week is Boston College traveling to Missouri to take on the Tigers of Mizzou. And this, even though it's two ranked opponents, it's an enormous spread. So Missouri favored by 16 and the hook in this one. Guys, is there any chance that BC kind of pulls the miracle and really represents the league well? Could we get another victory over an SEC opponent.
I mean, well, go ahead, Andrew.
Feels very unlikely. My biggest hope for Boston College is that they are going to parlay that victory over Florida State and the drubbing, warm up game against Duquesne that they had this past week into keeping it competitive. This spread of 16.5, maybe they can only lose by 2 touchdowns. That would still cover the spread. But yeah, the idea of them pulling off the upset, I think if they do that, they actually do deserve to be number 3 in our power rankings, if not even higher. I think they're a little inflated right now because we don't really, we haven't seen too many games and haven't seen too many victories so far.
Because nobody else has won any games. That's
pretty
much.
There's
not many other teams that have actually won a game in the ACC, Andrew. That's the problem.
Well, I mean, that's obviously true. But here's what I think. I think the way that Boston College has won their games is what leads me to take them and the points in this one. It's not that I don't think they're going to win. Missouri is a very, very good football team. But what we've seen from BC, and you saw it especially in that season opening victory, or in their season opener, the win over Florida State, was that they controlled the football. They controlled the time of possession. They ran the ball down the throats of the Seminoles. If they can do that, if they can be effective in that way, I think they can limit possessions, which just makes it harder to blow them out. I think Bill O'Brien, what he's doing with this team, he is maximizing the talent they have. He's scheming for some of the deficiencies that are there, and I think that's going to keep them in football games this year, even games they may not have the talent to win. This is certainly an example of that. It's hard for me to see them dropping this game by 3 scores when we've seen what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, and I think you bring a great point there. It reminds me of when he went to Penn State and he took over after the scandal. He realized he had to build up from the ground up. He probably saw this Boston College team and saw the same thing, where the talent is just not great, or walk-ons even. And even they got the transfer portal with the quarterback Castellanos.
Castellanos, but he was there.
Castellanos, thank you. Yeah, I mean, no, he wasn't even a transfer. You're right. He was there last year, and but everyone just discarded him. And look at him; he's been great the first couple games this year. He was great against Florida State. The running backs, Ward, Richard, Kyle Rubachuk. It's just these guys. Like you said, the ground game has got to take over against Missouri. Now, the one thing that concerns me is that Missouri is a bigger, stronger team on defense. They got that SEC front, and I think it's just going to be a little tougher for them to be competitive at the end of the game. I think it's close at half, but I think Missouri just pulls away at the end.
Man, that at first I wasn't excited about talking about this game. I felt like, well, we just need to talk about it because it's the only game of 2 ranked opponents, and it made sense that we had to bring it up. And Boston College was rising, coming off their big win. But man, that is that's a really tough sell right now. Because I'm almost after what Jared said. I'm like, okay, I like the Missouri and the spread. After what David said, I'm thinking backdoor cover. This game could turn out a little bit, could turn out to be a very interesting game from a betting perspective. I'm still going to take Missouri and the 16.5 in this one, because of what they've done. I really, really, really want to believe in Boston College and what they're capable of doing. 2 games in, it's hard to get a sample size for both of them. Neither one of them has played anybody that you would. I mean, if you want to include Florida State, what BC did, but we've all talked about what we think about them right now. Neither one of these teams has played anybody of note that you would really consider as a competitor right now. But this is a Missouri team that has not, and I realize they haven't played anybody, but has not given up a single point on the entire season. I realize that they've not played anybody, and the BC is going to be the best team they've played all season. That's not saying a whole lot. No disrespect to Boston College, but Boston College is going to be far and away the best team they've played through their first 3 games. It just feels like the magnitude of the blowouts that Missouri has been able to facilitate in their first 2 weeks. It feels very, very trap worthy, if you will. to have that 16.5 hanging out there. Knowing what BC is the first couple of weeks, the rising, jumping into the top 25, it almost kind of feels like one of those that's begging people to take Boston College minus 16.5 or plus 16.5 because of the momentum they've got. When in reality, this Missouri team is head and shoulders better than Boston College on the football field. I hope it's different. I'm an ACC homer, so I would love for Castellanos and company to come out and come out with the win. But I feel like Missouri's going to take control and handle this game.
All right. Well, I think Jeff, you put it well that though this doesn't look like the most exciting slate of matchups, maybe things break the right way, and this turns out to be some interesting games. Whatever happens, we'll be here next week to break them down on the virtual tailgate. But before we sign off this week, we do want to do some rapid fire bets just from some of the other games. Mine is give me Ole Miss minus 23.5 over Wake Forest. This Mississippi team is very, very good. And Wake Forest is very, very mediocre. And though Wake is at home here, I just think Ole Miss's offense is going to run up the score on the Demon Deacons. Jared, give us a quick fire bet.
Oh, God. Virginia Tech is going down to another night of horrors, potentially. They have had issues going down to Norfolk playing ODU, and they have to go down there again this year. I have ODU, not for just the spread. I have Old Dominion in the money line plus 450. I think the upset happens again. Virginia Tech has been starting slow in the first half in the past two games. They started slow against Marshall last week. I just think there's going to be issues, and they're going to have it catch up to them at the end of the game.
All right. Now, we're getting progressively crazier with these picks as we go. I'm going to turn to Jeff next.
Yeah, for these quick fire bets, I was looking at what games haven't we talked about that had a pick that I felt confident in that I had made, and it seems crazy, but similar to last week where I came back to Louisville and having that huge spread and they paid out. Don't feel as good this week, but I'm taking Miami minus 37.5. I know it's a big spread, but this is a Miami team that just last week put up 56 on Florida. Florida AMU, they beat Florida by 24 points the week prior. Continue that kind of offensive output. I think they can beat Ball State by 37.5 points. Big number, but it's the one I felt the most confident in what I had remaining.
All right, and we saved the most insane one for last. Andrew, it's kind of been a theme tonight that you've sort of lost your mind or you've hit the sauce.
So,
what's your call here?
So, you made some bad picks last week, and whatever betting app you're using gave you some amount of free money. That's not real money anyway. You already lost it last week. So put it on UConn in the money line plus 600. It's probably not going to happen, but it's not real money anyway. And if it is, then you get to go out to a nice dinner.
Okay. Thank you. Good luck. May God have mercy on your soul.
That's for every UConn football fan out there.
And that's it for the virtual tailgate. You can send your questions or comments to virtualtailgate@mediabullcrap.com.
Always remember these 3 rules. Never get less than 12 hours sleep.
Never butt chug.
And never get involved with a woman with a tattoo of a dagger on her body.
Stick to that. Get some Gatorade and enjoy your day.
What's a butt chug?
Get some Gatorade, man. Enjoy your day.
And do you butt chug the Gatorade?
Good. That's actually safer.